Full day here in Indianapolis. Went out and chair, some relaxation, fountain across from me, and reading this, listening to this audiobook called The Psychology of Money. And it brings to mind perspective. You know, a lot comes at us very fast these days, especially if you're on social media and like myself, it's something that I know that I need to control and I work on every day to limit unless I'm doing, things for business or promotion. Like now when I'm on YouTube and sharing some good wisdoms with you guys is, perspective is everything. And I would say that the worst thing that social media has done, one of many, but is brings so much empty information to people. And what I mean by that is there's no backstory. There's no substance behind the things that you're seeing. You see the instant result of something, the flashy cars, the big houses, the huge wins. And I talk about this a lot is, people want to be with you in the beginning and when you get the results, but nobody really can stand to be with you on your journey like you are and 100% with you during the middle part, which is the journey. And that's why they say embrace the journey, man, because that's where it all happens. And so, where I'm talking about perspective is I sat down with a younger guy the other day who has been operating a consulting agency. Now he's 28 years old, and a friend and a colleague of mine. We meet once a month and discuss, what we're doing in our businesses, in our lives, just catch up with each other, and at the end of the day, just motivate and inspire each other to keep doing better and exploring possibilities. And so, in this meeting, he asked if he could invite in one of his team members from his real estate company, and because he says he sees a lot of that guy, a lot of me in that guy, and the guy reminds me a lot of him and especially with the consulting. And we talked about how he never really understood what Livish was and what it did. And so the last meeting, well, 2 meetings ago that I had with him, I really explained the results that I've had with Livish and several of the other endeavors that I'm working on and what all that's led to. And, his perception was just, oh man, this guy's just doing all these things, but I don't really understand what he does. And so where it comes to perspective is, in his perspective, right? Which isn't really important. My perspective is important. My reality is important to the goals and the dreams that I have because I'm the only one that's going to achieve them. The way in which I do them, and I'm the only one that has the me and the experiences that I have going on to navigate and manage throughout life. And so it's a unique journey. We're all individually unique, and perspective is important. And so I sat down and I started talking to this guy and asked him a couple questions and then talked to him about my journey. He was having some success, actually making more money in his consulting companies than he was in real estate, trying to figure out if he wants to go full time consulting or continue to do both. And I encouraged him to do both. And what it all came down to was basically I got to reiterate all of the years, the last, since 2016, really, when I started Livish and all the discovery that I had been able to experience and develop over all of the failures that I had, and we talk about like failures being lessons, but they really are. They were actually wins, so I don't even look them as failures anymore. You get frustrated when you don't get to sprint forward, but the experience and the knowledge and the confidence that you build from enduring tough things and challenges is literally the value that you need to be able to sustain success for longer periods of time, even indefinitely. And without those little obstacles that and nuances that you experience and the pains that you experience and the different ways you have to think about how to overcome things along the way, without those, uh, you know, you're not really ready to go about it on your own. You're not really set up for that longevity. and you really don't have the confidence to be able to navigate tough situations. Hi, how you doing, Joel? And here, look at my friend here. Hey, buddy. So I'll show you where I'm at, and then we'll talk about it. But perspective was that here's this 28-year-old, and I told him at 28 is where I figured out who I was. At 21 I felt old, and what I mean by that is I realized that I was getting older. Like time was relevant to me. That I had somewhat of a sense of urgency now placed on me to accomplish things faster. You can't just play around. Now you got to get serious, and all the things that you talked about when you were younger. Now you really got to put action to it and strategy and process. And so when I turned 28, I was in a difficult scenario. I moved up to a city I didn't know anybody in. Took a leap of faith, and it was the best leap of faith that I ever made. I did it on my last dime. Started with an automotive group in sales, which I despised, by the way, for the longest time, and still do. But it was the greatest trainer I've ever had. And so again, goes to perspective. Um, you know, I came up to the city, didn't know anything, didn't know like what exactly I wanted to do, but I knew who I was at that point at 28, and I was like, man, I'm going to conquer whatever I put my mind to. I'm going to just keep going. I'm going to do it large, and I'm going to go big. I'm going to reach out to people, and I'm just going to be me. And then in 2016, I was really struggling finding my place. I was still in the automotive dealership. I rose up really high, almost partnership level, GSM level, and on my way to partnership in a very large national contender dealership, multi-billion dollar dealership. That was heavily family owned and run and partnered in. And I was getting this opportunity because I was relentless with it. I committed everything to it and sacrificed a whole bunch to make sure that I got where I wanted to go, which is the other thing. You got to commit, but the perception that I had was that I was behind, that I wasn't accomplishing things that others were accomplishing, and I still had this envy and this jealousy of people, and I never really saw it as that, but I did, and it fueled me and disheartened me at the same time because I kept comparing myself to the partners, and I kept comparing myself to other people who looked like they were living a better life than me, and here I was sitting here, making 200 plus $1,000 a year, and then 300, and then 400, et cetera, and generating millions and millions of dollars and managing hundreds and hundreds of people and moving from one dealership to the next to build them up because they saw the faith and the trust in me. And I still felt inadequate. I was inadequate, that I still hadn't accomplished enough, that I needed to prove more to myself and others that I was available. And I started that company, Livish, in 2016 after I woke up one day and had the vision for Livish. My nickname was Lion, and um, because I roared, I would speak out about things that just didn't make sense or people weren't seeing, and it irritated people. But I knew it was the right way, and so I came into my own confidence. And so within that confidence in operations and marketing and sales, I decided to start a consulting company. I wanted to get into real estate development, working bigger business deals. I felt like I was operating below my capacity. And the organization that I was at was really limiting me to whatever they said I could do, and I could run up to that ceiling, and that was about it. But I had so many great ideas and plans that I knew I could execute, but they never really allowed me to execute to the fullest. And so that really was defeating to me, and it was demeaning to me as well because I was like, man, I have all this. I can do great for you guys. I can do better for you guys. I see more for you guys. And because I had that realization, I wanted to experience it. And so I got into consulting and had no idea what I was doing. I just wanted to help confused and frustrated businesses grow. That's all I knew how to do. And I knew how to move and shake and communicate and build relationships and study and research and then implement. I knew how to lead teams and execute a goal and then do it well and very fast. And so all of these skills led me to consulting. I couldn't really define what it is that I wanted to do. So from 2016 to about 2018, I ran that business, made a couple $1,000s a year doing speaking engagements, things like that. But what that did was it opened me up what the real business world was outside of automotive. I was meeting with small business owners. I was meeting with city officials. I was meeting politicians. Like I started to realize like this is not what I thought it was. but I started to get really good at bumping into people that were valuable. I just couldn't place it yet. And so years go by. I ended up dissolving in 2018. I got audited, and it set me back several years. And it was a real punch in the gut to me. But I was still moving forward in the dealership world. Anyway, so come December 2022, they decided to go a different way and not make me a partner in the dealership that I had worked 12 years for. And I'm grateful that they made that decision. They were wrong, absolutely wrong, to make that decision because they left a lot of money on the table and a lot of growth that I could have had because I wasn't a yes man. I did contest the status quo, but that's what's made me successful. It's also what's made me real great in consulting and also led me to where I am today. So I explained these things to this gentleman, this young guy, 28 years old, who's trying to figure himself out, not really certain about where he's at. And so I told him I'm 41 now, and I've got these 3 companies, and they just like popped up overnight. It was crazy. Like I've had Liveish since 2016, but really invested fully in the business integration and development side of it and branding myself in 2023, January 2023, when I left automotive and went at it full time, trusted myself in an industry I knew nothing about, and just went after every vertical, no niche. He was confused on if he should niche down because that's what everybody told him. I said, if that's not what you want to do, don't. Just find other resources to offset what you don't really like to do because that's what I did. And people kept telling me the same thing like, oh, you're not going the right direction. We don't understand what you're doing. And here today, now I have 3 companies worth millions of dollars on paper, partnered up in a commercial real estate company with Liveish, and also now partnered up in a Midwest Automotive Partners, which is an auto dealership that is going to be absolutely fucking gangbusters. We are going to blow that up because I learned so many things in automotive that people were just so used to status quo they wouldn't touch their toe in to find out what it looked like on the other side. And so I'm so excited to get that going. Thanks for jumping on here, guys. Maggie, Joe. So long story short, I'm telling him the story and this evolution of the mind and what my perception was that I wasn't really accomplishing anything. And when I was going full time with Livex, I was averaging about $85,000 a year. But I had actually procured some contracts that will pay out based on completion with a construction company. I generated them over $20 million in 4 months. Never been in the industry before, didn't know anything about it, and got them partnered up with some very large national and global contenders who generated them a lot of business. They ended up burning me, cutting me off all of connections, and never paid me. It was about $1 million in commissions. So even though I didn't earn the money, I earned the result. And so this is where perception really comes into play. As I have generated tens of millions of dollars for companies, but I haven't been paid tens of millions of dollars. So the one realization I had is if I keep working for somebody else and generating them millions of dollars, I'm never going to get to the financial accolades that I want to be at. I'm also, and more importantly than the financial accolades, I'm going to have a very hard time doing things at the scale that I want to do them to give back to other people and empower them, as well as uh, invest at the level I want to invest at, develop at the level I want to, and run at the speed I want to run at if I don't build the financial capital. So I realized I would have to do that on my own, and that's why I went out my own and started, my own company, and I've now developed 3 companies, and I'm super excited to continue to buy and build more. But none of that was clear to me. I actually just got off a W-2 job that I worked for the last year and a half that I parted ways with a month and a half ago because I got hit so bad by that consulting contract that built me on that multi-million dollar commission. I mean, and it's still going. I mean, I couldn't even quantify it at this point. And so so what I realized is one, I can do it. I can absolutely do it on a very large scale with very little money. I spent all of my savings um, to invest in myself for the future of myself, my family, uh, as well, and to get to my dreams. And that one contract that didn't pay out, I was hoping for that large 7-figure payout because that would have set Livish on a pace that I know is to be true. That has not come true yet. And so anyway, that burnt me. I had to go back to a W-2. And I came out of the W-2 uh, from knowing that now I have these 2 partnerships. So all in that year and a half, I was working my ass off for this company, and it was a very disorganized company, and there was a lot of things that they could have changed, and stepping over tens of thousands of dollars to pick up hundreds. Same thing you see in many industries, but it gave me a fresh perspective on why I left automotive in the first place, and why I left working for somebody else in the first place. Because people just want to do what they know how to do. They don't want to look at what the alternative is and how to implement that, because most people don't actually know how to implement. Most people don't know how to stage out processes and systems and people and financial budgets to accomplish a goal over an extended period of time. Everybody wants it yesterday, like the McDonaldization of the world, or the Instagrams and the Facebooks, the instant gratification. But I understand it very well. I understand how to see bottlenecks. I understand operations, marketing, and sales uh, well enough to be very dangerous and effective in any industry. Any industry. You put me in any industry, I'll learn it, I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to make it better. I'll figure out how to make it smoother. I'll figure out how to get it so that people want to work with you. And it's not so hard to make money. It's what I'm good at. So fast forward that year and a half, I kept working on my company. And next thing you know, people kept referring me to other people who were losing partners or had to segue out in partners and looking where to invest their money. And those people came to me because I had a high regard in the consulting world. I also had a high regard in my business world for achieving high results, being able to lead a high number of team members with many departments, many moving pieces, many variables, and be effective in short order and magnanimously effective. And still, I did not feel like I had accomplished enough. So the perception of me was I'm shooting for the moon, but do I really understand these things? Am I really this valuable? Do I really know how to do these things? Because what it looked like to me was that I was failing. It looked like to me that all of these endeavors were going nowhere. To the truth factor of I got to go back to a W two now after I ran a company for 3 years with the hope of making seven figures and more on one single client. And what I realized is all of those things led me to the opportunities that I got while I was still at a W 2. They came to me, they trusted in me, they saw my resilience, they saw what I was able to do, and they believed in me. And so these people believed in me and have invested millions of dollars in me. And I'm forever grateful for that. But it will be the best investment they've ever made. And that's a tall order considering that some of my investors are in the hundreds of millions of dollars in wealth. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm excited for what's coming. But what all of this story I told this kid, and I just said, be patient with yourself and give grace. You cannot compare yourself to others. Your journey is like no other. It never will be. I'm an identical twin, and I know that. That even no matter how close someone is to you, your journeys will be indistinguish. They will be clearly different from another person. No matter if you live with them your whole life, you were born with them, you were 2 minutes apart at birth, your life will be different based on the choices that you make and the actions you take or don't take. So inaction is action. To make a choice or not make a choice is making a choice. And so once you learn those fundamental things, you realize that that perception will move you forward. And because I've always believed that I can do things greater than my current station, and I want to do those things because that is important to me so that I can have the freedom to make choices beyond what someone who doesn't work that hard or doesn't have that financial stability or doesn't have that cash flow generator or doesn't have that experience wouldn't be able to do. I can do it so that I can make more choices that are naturally of me without the constriction of financials or wherewithal. And so to me, that's freedom. Money is freedom to me. I don't chase money. Money is a good tool, but what I chase is the things that I can get with that money, the time that I can save to complete an objective, the impact, overall impact I can have with a greater amount of impact on a greater number of people because I'm not hindered by the financials or the wherewithal to be able to do so. And so when I explained this to him, he talked about, things like, well, when I go into these other rooms, these people are short with me. Like I don't know anything because I'm young, because they think they know more than me. And I was like, well, that's your perception. It's maybe their perception, but that's not important. What's important is your perception. How you perceive yourself is how you will operate. How you perceive yourself or how you perceive a thing is how you will behave towards that thing. So remember, that the small talk that you do with yourself, how you tell yourself you are operating, will limit you to the level of value and clarity you give yourself, level of grace that you give yourself to move forward in this life. And remember that there are a huge number of people out there that will never have taken the actions that you've taken, that have never had to endure the things that you've had to endure in the sequence that you've had to endure them. So feel proud and accept that you are a unique individual and you have to live life within the moment with the things that you have at your disposal and with the abilities that you have in the circumstances that you are in. And believe me that if there's one thing that you work on, it's not just fitness. Fitness helps with perception because it makes you feel healthier and stronger. That's great. Like health, in fitness and eating is extremely important. But even if you don't do anything on those, let me just say you're fat and lazy and you out of shape, and you're not intelligent. Just change your perception of yourself. Change your perception of yourself by telling yourself that you can do it. You are capable. That's it. And beyond that, I am going to do it. And take one step. That's it. Take one breath towards that next thing, and just don't compare yourself to anybody else. Track in for a year and just say, I'm going to do everything that is necessary for me. And then each year you just check in and where are you at? Where are you at? You don't have to know all the answers. You don't even have to know what direction you're going. Just go in some direction and commit to it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And then inevitably you never give up. But because you do all these things, again, I'm 41 and I really started hustling at about 26 years old is when I really started going after it because that's when I couldn't finish my graduation at IU because I didn't have enough money. And that was disheartening. And so I had to go after it. I had to get in the business world. And I'm so glad that I did. I'm so glad that I didn't lean on that college degree. I'm so glad I had all those trials and tribulations because, man, it taught me a lot. It was painful. It was hard. I don't recommend always going that way, finish the degree. But I couldn't because I didn't have the money. And so, here we are 20 years later, and I don't have a degree, but I make more than most people do on the planet. And that's because of sheer resilience and commitment to myself and the perception that I can find a way, right? You don't have to go to the status quo and you don't have to do things the way everyone else wants to do. Hi, how are you, Miriam? You don't have to do things like everybody else and be okay with not doing things the way that everybody else does. And be okay not being an expert at some points in your life. Eventually, you will become one. But really, there are no experts because the true masters of anything are the ones that continue to learn, the ones that are so curious for the rest of their life and forever that they just want to continue to learn and learn how to do better, not more, but just better, be better. And then ultimately beyond that, be better for yourself so that you could be better for other people. And that's really what it's at the end of the days is so that you have a better life and you can show other people how to have a better life by you being better. So again, perception is huge. At the end of this conversation, he asked me several questions that he had challenged him. I pointed out to him that a lot of it is our ego. We feel offended or we feel afraid because of our ego, because of our pride, or some preconceived notion that something is a certain way. And if we turn it into, it's okay to be genuinely curious and it's okay to ask questions that you don't know. It's actually better that you are someone who accepts that you don't know everything because you'll find out more information. The listener is always going to learn more than the talker. And so the perception always has to be that I want to get to this place. And the only way that I get to this place is if I take the steps in that direction and I ask the questions. I openly communicate and I ask people to help me and I ask people where to go and I research and I study and I just keep doing things that are inquisitive and curious and then taking action behind the things that I find out, you will be successful. I guarantee you, I don't care who you are, but in time, you will be successful. And that is very important to understand. In time, if you do these things consistently and you adopt this behavior of I will figure it out, I want to know because it is valuable to me because I believe it is valuable to the future me. It's valuable to me now and it's valuable to the future me. That is a perception and that will change the way you behave. So even if you are the farthest behind, you're a 60-year-old man and you never did shit in your life, you never graduate anything, accomplish anything. Who gives a shit? You can start to do anything you want at the time you decide that you want to do it. And the first step is literally accepting that you're going to do it and then just step outside and go towards it. Even if it's scary, just go towards it. Even if it's a little bit, even if you go, say there's a place that you know there's information that you want and you're scared to go into that building, just drive by the building a couple times, do it for a couple weeks, then stop, park, don't even get out, park, do that for a couple weeks, then get out of your car, do that for a couple weeks. Then walk a little close to the door, hang out, get familiar with the area, maybe meet some people in the local area, meet them. Then you're going to be comfortable. That's where the reps come in. And then walk into the building. And then you don't even have to go see anybody, just walk into the building. Now you walk through the door. And then after a couple of weeks, then you start talking to the security guard or the person standing at the door or at the counter. You get familiar with them. Just ask them questions. Hey, just want to know about your business, whatever. And then one day you're going to go in. One day they're probably going to go, hey, would you like to meet this person? I'll show you where because you'll ask the right question. Somebody will want to empower you like you want to empower other people. And you'll get in that door. And the next thing you know, 10 years will go by and you achieved everything that you wanted to achieve and you learn a shit ton more. And even if you don't achieve everything you want to achieve, you'll come so much farther than you would if you never ever did that first step by driving by that building and committing to that focus in your mind. Stay lavish, guys. Remember, have a positive perception and an optimistic perception always, and then take action. Be genuinely curious and ask people, not ask people how they can help you, just ask them what they know about what you want to know about. People love to contribute. Stay lavish.